Hello, one and all. Welcome back to ETSR, and for this, the third round of Season 6. Welcome to the Australian Grand Prix, where fate has been cruel and utopia has been gripped. For the next hour and a half, we may see some more pivotal early signs in this championship battle. Two different race winners so far this season. 6 different podium sitters in the first 2 races. There is unpredictability, and then there is this racing division. My name is Ben McCarthy, and I'm thrilled to be bringing you the action from the Albert Park circuit in Melbourne, Australia. So you have to get them in. And as we saw, although in the wet, but as we saw on Saturday around the Belgian Grand Prix, the difference between Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz looked like it was a matter of just getting the tyres into the right window. We're not expecting the same gulf of difference between the same runners today. Having said that, Kareem hits the wall, damages his front wing in the most flummoxing of manners. And Thomas has been, disqualified from the session. That is perplexing. Everything we've just seen in those matter of moments is, completely bemusing, and Kareem doesn't help his cause by then running wide through the exits of turn 1. That means he exceeds track limits and will not see a lap time registered. Jay is going very slowly and has a Ferrari right on his tail, but not for too long. He lets it pass. Let's head back to Matt, who is looking to complete the first sector of this Albert Park track with 90 seconds to go. What can he conjure? He's down by 83 milliseconds through the first third of this Albert Park track. Now heading down this long, it's not really a straight, but a long enduring kink through the middle sector. And after it, he is up, is Matt, the Haas, seeking an improvement and may just be on for it. He can see Kareem and Lazar lying just ahead of him, but he will have traffic as he ventures through this final sector. The Haas is chucked through turn 12 and careers into the rear of J-Boss. Oh, that was frightening. That was enormous. And Jay, understandably, is handed a grid penalty. The Haas tries to pass the McLaren. I fear a moment of retribution may be on the horizon there. That's a shame. That is a real shame for Matt. He then goes wide through the first corner. The McLaren tries to get past him. There is contact between the pair, and it's not what you want to see. Meanwhile, though, as Vapor invalidates his efforts, he is not going to be a factor in this race for pole position. So it's left to Tech to extend his advantage, which he duly does. That is one immense effort from the Sauber. A glittering lap beneath the glazing sun here in Albert Park. The Sauber could make it 2 poles in 3 races. Jensen, though, looks to better him, but can't quite do it. He's half a second behind. Vapor, like I said, has invalidated his lap. So it's left to Lazar and Kareem, who can't quite improve. J-Boss runs off the track. He already has a grid penalty coming his way, so he's not going to be a factor. But what about Tech's teammate, Jock? How much of a factor could he be in the fight for the upper positions? Oh, not massively. He's 1.5 seconds down on his teammates. So the one last driver who can usurp the Sauber is the Alpine of Andy. He grabs the brake going into the penultimate corner, and round turn 14 he goes. He does put down the power for one final time on this lap. And for Andy, it is a place on the second row. Just seconds ago, he hadn't registered a lap. Now he is a factor in this race. Oh, how he's a factor in this race. And J-Boss, he is set to start this race from last. And then he finds the wall down the start-finish straight. To the formation lap we head, and Tech will lead the field. Let's have a look at the choice in strategy amongst the front runners, and wow, 12 of the 13 drivers will start this race on the medium compound tyre. So that shows you that the drivers are likely going to try and commit at least to a one-stop strategy. And although overtaking is a little bit easier around this track than it used to be, overtaking is still a challenge. Thomas has now disqualified himself from the formation lap like he did in qualifying. But Tech leads the pack after a dominant performance in qualifying. It was a dominant performance in qualifying 2 weeks ago for the Bahrain Grand Prix, but fate was so cruel to him. What will it conjure today? 2 out of 3 pole positions at the start of Season 6. 3 in the last 4 races in ETSR. This has been a man and a driver who has been relentless when it comes to one-lap speed. That Sauber has been a blur. But can it finally turn qualifying gold into the top step of the podium? So he weaves this way and that way, just trying to generate every pivotal grip in those medium compound tyres. And he leads the pack as Tech onto the start-finish straight. You can just see the latter drivers heading through the final corner and now onto the straight, and we will be seconds away from lights out. Where do we head? Where do we go? Whose utopia do we stare down here at Albert Park? We go from the lights to the action. Tech looks to cover off Vapor. The leading Ferrari doesn't get the most brilliant of starts. His teammate is going to attack him into the first corner, but Vapor holds the racing line and preserves second place. But Sauber still leads the pack. Side-by-side action further down the field, and now Andy looking to challenge Jensen going into turn 3, but he can't quite get past. Tech still leads out in front. It looks like J-Boss was challenging for a position on that, but has quickly faded away and through now. The end of the first sector, Tech leads from Vapor, but he seems to have struggled just a little bit through turn 6 and 7, and his teammate looks to inch ever closer, but so too does Andy. On board then with the Alpine through the kink and now towards the fast chicane of turns 9 and 10. Can he make an impression? Not quite. Further down the pack, Zach was in closest striking range as Danger Dan, a whole load of oversteer through the exit of the chicane. He surrenders not just one place, but it could be yet more. It's going to be 3 wide into turn 11. Somehow the Aston Martin keeps the pair of Hasses at bay. But that could have been also damaging for Dan's race, but he keeps it on the road and on he pushes. The yellow flags are out and it's for Dan's teammate Thomas, who has had one hellish race so far. He has a damaged front wing, and that is going to sever an already wounded Australian Grand Prix for Thomas. So Tech leads this Australian Grand Prix by over 0.8 of a second. An emerging pattern 2 weeks ago in Sakir was that Tech didn't have the most amazing speed in the first stint, and frankly, with that exit from turn 6 and 7, he isn't going to have a lot of speed. He's gone onto the grass and that's compromised his exit, and because it's such a long straight, absolutely flat out from the exit of turn 6 and 7 all the way to the chicane. The Ferrari of Vapor closes in, as you can see now with the aid of DRS. That prancing horse is thirsting for the advantage. Into turn 11 we go. He gets so close to the leader's rear wing, does Vapor. He's merely pushing that Sauber through the corners, and it shows you the rigours of this Albert Park circuit. And in a blink, we have a train emerging. Headed by all, and that's Lazar in the Red Bull. A massive tank slapper through the final corner, sees the Red Bull drop down, but Vapor, through he goes and into the lead. He has pickpocketed the pole sitter, and the champion has his way. J-Boss now out of this race, and wow, that is a seismic shunt for the McLaren. He has brought out the virtual safety car as Thomas very nearly crashed on entry to the pit lane, but Jay becomes our first retirement from this Australian Grand Prix mere moments after Vapor took the lead. But it was through this sequence of track where Tech's advantage was starting to diminish. One perceptible moment, one moment of oversteer or understeer, that really can be the difference around this track. But you can see the top four merely nose to tail at the moment as this virtual safety car is out. When we go back to green flag racing, it could be a matter of pass or be passed. So through they go into the final sector with the start-finish straights awaiting. Looks like Vapor is trying to pull away as Jay leaves the session, and Al seems to have earned a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. That is going to throw his race into hell as Andy passes Jensen for P3. But back to the battle for the race lead. Tech thought about a move into the first corner, but it seems like Jensen was the driver caught unaware. He is dropped down into fourth place. Meanwhile, Tech wants his lead back. Going into turn 4, he searches for the outside line, but he has the Ferrari off the racing line. Around the outside of turn 4, he chanced the move, but couldn't quite execute it. He is now returning the favour, putting the Ferrari under pressure, and even with a mere moment of oversteer through turn 6, he has that rear wing nearly open, and now open, and he draws level with the Ferrari. The Sauber searching for the race lead. Tech, can he grab it going into the chicane? Not quite, but he wants to set himself up off of the exit of the chicane. Vapor committing himself to the inside. Tech will remain committed to the outside. He has the legs on the Ferrari. Round the outside he goes. The Ferrari will push him off into the gravel, but they're mere millimetres away from one another. A champion and one who wishes to dethrone him go throat to throat, and it was the Sauber who prevailed. With sheer will and wonder, Vapor was pounced upon, but he wants the lead back going down the start-finish straight. It is non-stop action around Albert Park. This is a relentless battle for the race lead, one which the Ferrari wants back. The top 5 now are nose to tail. Andy seems like he was momentarily offline, but Jensen just had no room to pass him. So another DRS straight beckons. Vapor, what can he do? He gets into the race leader's slipstream. He will have that rear wing wide open. That should nullify the threat from Andy behind, but will it? Into the high-speed chicane, the Ferrari searches for that inside line and will prevail, but the Sauber wants to stick with it. Vapor goes wide, the Alpine goes through, and it's drama yet still here at Albert Park. Andy had a look down the inside. Jensen chance to move around the outside. The Alpine this way and that way on the throttle. Jensen, though, is not giving in and is pushed onto the gravel. Still, he charges on, but he collides with the Alpine for one moment. But somehow, no Ferrari runs in the top 2. How about it? How about it in ETSR? This is sheer racing utopia that we are seeing. And Jensen wants to add to it going into turn 4, but he can't find a way through. It seems like Andy's actually prioritising his exits and compromising his entries, which is, well, it looks like it's causing Jensen a moment or two moments of worry. I said at the end of qualifying, getting that lap in for Andy could be the difference today. And at the moment, it is showing to be, because here he is, battling for the race lead. The blue on that Alpine is a blur. That Sauber has resisted him so far on this lap, but they're now going to race towards turn 11. And he had a look down the inside, but could not plot a way through. We have Matt now getting past Dan with the aid of DRS, and with Dan's wounded front wing, that seemed like it was a formality. But round the final corner we go, and that Alpine has a lot of ERS battery in reserve. He inches ever closer to the race lead down the start-finish straight. But watch this exit through turn 2. The Sauber struggling with its rear end. No second invitation was needed for Andy. He surges through. An avalanche of Alpine Blue has quelled the prancing horse and has usurped the Sauber. Could it be territory? Could it be the territory that has evaded the Alpine for so very long? He still has an army of stallions chasing his heels though, and Tech is leading that charge now into the high-speed chicane. Looks like he understeered just a little bit into the initial part of the chicane. That should have compromised him on the exits, but did it one bit? No, because the Sauber now down the inside. He has the Alpine forced to the very outside, but now Jensen wanting to follow through. Oh, that was close. That was so close. It is restless. It really is restless, but now it seems like Vapor is going to come into the pits. And it's worth mentioning, actually, it is a 35% race here at Albert Park. It's 20 laps instead of 28. So that does mean that, well, those tyres are not going to have to last as long. But the leading trio knows the tail, but they know the defending champion has just triggered the undercut on them. How bold could that prove to be from the defending champion? He has been released into clear air, so that should not be a problem. Yes, he will have to get his tyres up to temperature. But these three are battling away and could be costing themselves time. So Andy is looking for that outside line through the kink that leads to the fast chicane of turn 9 and turn 10. And it was just not a battle at all. Andy through into the race lead, but for how long? The Sauber is without DRS and had a look. But without that rear wing opening, that Alpine could keep him at arm's length. Jensen has gone wide through turn 11. Well, that's going to cost him time. It has seen him drop to over a second behind the leading pair. And who's going to pit? Both the leading pair are going to pit. And Andy has crashed. He's crashed in the pit lane. The avalanche of aura has collapsed into dismay. Andy, with a wounded front wing, could just see his world fall apart. And look at the effect of the undercut, because his Tech is released from the pit lane. Vapor's outfat was such that his tyres were young enough, fresh enough, quick enough to take what could be the next race lead. That is what a champion does. He showed his hands when it mattered. And while his teammates battles away for the race lead and is in turn going to cost himself time, things may just look a whole lot better for the championship leader. But for how long? Because Tech is within DRS striking distance and actually tapped the wall through the kink. Hopefully he's escaped front wing damage, because, well, you don't want to be damaging your race just through that. But look at the straight line speed of that Sauber. He rocketed past the Ferrari going into turn 11 and reclaims the next race lead back. We saw from Tech on fresh tyres 2 weeks ago. He was mightily quick. Are we seeing that same fate again today? Well, let's see, because Vapor is still hot on his heels as they race towards turn 4. He's not quite close enough to make an impression, but the pressure is pervasive. The prancing horse has one more gallop, and he will be ahead. These are the mighty close margins which separate these drivers, and the mighty close margin in exceeding track limits has not just affected Kareem, but also the defending champion. And Vapor has a problem. Oh, he has a problem now. Track position may be well fought, but in the grand scheme of things, the Sauber is now pretty much fighting another race as Matt goes for a spin through the exit of turn 11. He sees Kareem pass him, and he won't be far away, but I'm going to imagine the Alpine has not replaced his damaged front wing, and he hasn't. You can see that right end of that end plate has been wounded. And Andy had such a promising start, but that mistake, that needless mistake in the pit lane, could be the telltale sign. So then we're looking at Jock making a move on Lazar down the start-finish straight. He did not want to wait for the second DRS zone, but he did go in a little bit deep. Does that allow the Red Bull past? Probably not, because Jock, thanks to the one DRS detection zone at the beginning of the first straight, he had DRS through both straights, and that gave him parity. Back to the battle between these two. Vapor looks to make amends for his time penalty and looks to punish a mistake from Tech. He struggled through that chicane, and the Ferrari resumes the on-track advantage over him. And that's what he needs. He just needs to punish any mistake, because the race clearly is not in his hands at the moment. As meanwhile, Jensen leads by less than 10 seconds, but you're going to assume he's going to pit to the soft compound tyres. And then we have a race. We have a massive fight for supremacy. Right, Tech is looking to get back ahead of the Ferrari. We haven't seen a lot of moves, if any moves, being made into turn 3 so far today. That shows you, though, the improvement in overtaking abilities and potential around this track. You don't just have to settle for turn 3, because the challenges come thick and fast after then, and Tech is going to prove just that. He draws level and is going to rip-roll past the scarlet red Ferrari, and Vapor is demoted to third on the road. And these two, they're battling in such a way that they're passing through the DRS zones. They're not actually costing themselves a whole heap of time, and maybe, just maybe, they are working together for the common cause of race victory. Or, in fact, staying ahead of Jensen, because I think for Vapor, at the moment, it looks like a long shot. On board with Lazar, he can see Jock ahead going into turn 11. He's not quite close enough to make a move, but you can see these four drivers in formation. And very encouraging to see that there are battles, more than just a battle for what is effectively the net race lead. But through the final corner, Jock just pulling away from Lazar through that, say, medium speed corner, but with the aid of DRS, he's not quite scampering away. You can see just that rear end just getting away from him, and Lazar has salvation. Going into turn 3, the move was made even before the braking zone, and through he went, but he got a massive tank slapper. The Sauber thought he was summoned past, but he almost had to avoid the Red Bull, who was lacking control in himself there. So through turn 6 and 7, these two go. They will resume their battle, and for all the battles that we have seen so far, there have been no full safety cars so far, and that is very much what Jensen is praying for. But to hell with it now for Jensen. He comes into the pits to get rid of his medium compound tyres. Meanwhile, his teammates continues to battle away with tech. And the Sauber follows through and up into the race lead yet again. But Jensen now coming out of the pit lane on the soft compound tyres in a clear fourth. He's looking for P3 yet again, and you perhaps sense with an 11 seconds margin deficit behind Tech and Vapor, maybe his strategy hasn't been so kind to him. Vapor yet again having to make a correction through turn 6 and 7. The race leader is just trying to get out of any slipstream threat, but is the Ferrari close enough to pounce going into turn 9? He certainly, well, was closing in, but was not side by side or in any real possibility of making a move. So behind he stays. But these two are going to continue to battle away with one another. And Jensen, he's just trying to chip away at the deficits he has to those ahead. He knows, and he will know, that both Vapor and Kareem have time penalties coming. So that is going to cost them race time. And both, well, it's 3 seconds for both. So maybe P3 is on for Jensen, but unless there is drama of the highest order, you do feel like the race win has just ebbed away from him. But to the leading pair once again, they're separated by a quarter of a second as they go through turn 4. The Sauber still struggling just a little bit with that rear end. It is a front limited circuit, so you wouldn't think that the rears would suffer that much. Drama was thirsted, and drama may just have came because Kareem, from a podium place, has crashed out of this one. He has terminally damaged that Mercedes, and we do, oh yes we do, have a safety car. So then, both Tech and Vapor, surely they will both pit for the grippier, softer compound tyres to fend off the threat that comes from Jensen. So into the pit lane they head. We know they'll both be heading for the soft compound tyres. But the real question is, do they come out ahead of Jensen? This is going to be so very tight. This could be decisive in the battle for the race victory, and the Sauber does come out ahead of Vapor. But what about Jensen? Jensen will take the lead. The driver, who went bold on strategy, committed to that one stopper to run the softs at the end, saw the possibility of a race win just ebb away from him. But now he has it back with little under 5 laps left in what could be an outrageously epic ending to this Australian Grand Prix. To the current order is Jensen, Tech, Vapor, Lazar, Jock, Andy, Zach, Dan, Matt, Al, and Thomas. Wow, the ending. The ending to this could be quite something. We are looking for our third different winner at the start of this ETSR campaign. It was Cormac for Red Bull in Bahrain. It was the champion who returned to his throne in Jeddah. And could it be Jensen's time down under? I mean, frankly, for Jensen, he will be hoping that there are as little laps left of this race as possible. But let's see. Maximum amount of laps will be 4, and that's if the safety car comes in on this lap. So, yeah, now it's going to be, it looks like, a maximum of 3. So then, to lap 17 we go. A pair of Ferraris, separated by the Sauber of Tech. And in this shortened Australian Grand Prix, this ending could be quite something. So Jensen's tyres are in fact 2 laps older. That shouldn't make too much of a difference. But in these final few laps, if the safety car comes in at the end of this lap, for which we are expecting it to, we're looking at 3 laps of racing action. You only need more than 1 lap of racing action for there to be DRS in play. And yeah, we will expect DRS to be used sometime, because surely the cars come into the pits. Surely the safety car comes into the pits either at the end of this lap or the end of the next lap. It is pure tension bubbling beneath here at Albert Park. Jensen's audacious strategy sees him in the lead, and he will have 3 laps to preserve it. He has Tech and Vapor right on his heels. He has Lazar and Jock also in the fight for race victory. And, well, Danger Dan, he looks to hopefully join the pack. Whether he reaches them, he'll surely reach them. Yes, he's going to be closing in on them metre by metre. Can you feel the tension? It really is bubbling. For what could be 3 different winners at the start of this ETSR season in as many races. Can Jensen hold off Tech? Could it be the vice champion or the man who has yet to score a victory in this series? Jensen finally puts down the power and gets us back underway here at Albert Park. And Vapor is going to look for that inside line. He's got the jump on the Sauber. To the inside he goes. And that is a massive thorn in the Sauber's side. His hopes of winning this race seep into turn 3. Andy seems like he may have just collided with Jock for 1 moment, but they're still going side by side. The Alpine looks like he's muscled through and up into 5th place, but the Sauber remains in this fight going into turn 6. He had a think about it, but he couldn't quite get through. Remember, Vapor has a time penalty. Theoretically, he is out of the battle for the race victory, unless Jensen or Tech either make a massive mistake or serve a time penalty of their own. The Ferraris in formation, thirsting, dying to fend off the pole sitter who is searching for his moment. Into turn 11, he thought about the move around the outside, but there wasn't quite enough room. Jensen still leads, but this was the lap he wanted. He desperately needed Vapor to stand between himself and Tech. So DRS will be enabled on this lap. Jensen just trying to break the toe from Vapor behind. He knows any perceptible advantage will be gold dust. But with DRS enabled towards the end of this lap, Tech may have his moment. And it could be now, because going into turn 3, he has a look, but he made a mistake. It was one more challenge and one more heart-in-mouth moment which could have worked against the Sauber. But he will charge on, he will fight on. He can still see that elusive race victory dangling before him. And he's coming for Vapor through the kink and towards the high-speed chicane. Can Tech get close enough? Not quite. Oh, he gave the Ferrari a tap going into turn 9. And he's going to close in yet again. Can Vapor take the lead on the road? He can, going into turn 11. But now Andy down the inside on the Red Bull. The pair are going to go side by side. Meanwhile ahead, it's Tech down the inside of Jensen, but he couldn't quite get through. One more tour. One more line of sheer racing drama. The picture before you is the battle for the race victory. Can Tech find a way past going into the first corner? Not quite. Jensen gets a sensible enough of an exit, but on board with the Sauber. As they lurk towards turn 3, he's going to chance a move around the outside. He's going to keep his foot in, then easily touching. Who's going to prevail? It looks like it's going to be Jensen, but he needs that DRS from his teammates. And then the Alpine came to blows with the Ferrari. Vapor went wide through turn 6. That should give the Ferrari the toe, the slipstream, but will it give him DRS? Yes, it will, and that could be that for Jensen. He's plotting his path past his teammates, and into turn 9, the lead is his again. There may just be one more opportunity for Tech. He looks to muscle past the champion. Can he get past Jensen? Not quite. Now that the other Ferrari is fighting back. Vapor keeping Tech at bay for one more corner. All of this melodrama points to one man and one moment amidst the chaos and the melodrama. We stare into a whole load of red bliss for Jensen and Ferrari. It's 3 different winners in the first 3 races at the start of ETSR in Season 6. The elation, the boundless relief, and for Jensen, the winning feeling yet again. He climbs to the top of the championship, while Tech yet again misses out on race victory. But let's just see the pictures of relief for Jensen. This is a driver who missed out on the championship. Digested dejection at the end of Season 5. He wore a battered soul, but that soul cries joy again. Jensen has joined the party. So then, Jensen, a winning feeling yet again in ETSR. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel great. It's been a tough start to the season, but it's just been going up and up and up ever since the first race. So it's nice to reach the peak after only 3 races.
100%. I mean, it seemed like the strategy wasn't going to work. We often expect safety cars around Albert Park, but it just seemed like it would never happen. Was that playing on your mind as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, you only have to look back to Abu Dhabi last year when I desperately sort of needed one. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure whether the strategy would work. Me and Jake agreed we'd try and split strategies. He wanted to go for a bit of an undercut on the others, and that worked. And then I thought I could try and sort of go for an aggressive comeback through the field with some softs at the end. But we'd never know if that would work or not because the safety car came out and thankfully actually helped me for once. So maybe it's a new leaf for me this season where the safety car will be on my side.
Well, you did everything you had to after the safety car, but also your teammates did play a decisive role in getting that car between yourself and Tech. Just how pivotal was that?
Well, yeah, very pivotal. If you'll look back on my stream and you'll hear there's a lot of radio chatter between us two about that. I even told him when I'd go on the safety car because we had to make sure he got past because he got a bit of wing damage under the safety car, so we had to make sure he could get ahead. And then with the 3-second time penalty, it was sort of fair game that I try and take the win and he try and hold everybody else up.
Exactly, but you're now the championship leader.
Oh, am I?
3 different. Yes, because Vapor finished 7th in the end. So, and you were 6 points behind him. And I'm pretty sure the difference between 1st and 7th in a race is more than 6 points. So yeah, you're the championship leader. I mean, obviously surprised there. I mean, you said it earlier in terms of the improvement you've had from 2 weeks ago. Was this a track thing? Is this a game thing? Is this just a personal thing with just how much you've improved?
I think it's all three. I think I sort of stated last week that the slight changes to the game sort of honed into how I like to drive a car. The
Mm.
track, I mean, famously last year I took pole at Australia and then ended up in the gravel and finishing fifth. So it sort of felt like it was a long time coming to win round this track, and it's always been a strong one for me. Um, and yeah, I've put in a bit more practice this week. I've had a bit more spare time, so definitely a personal thing as well.
So now that you're leading the championship, can you think about winning it at all, or do you have to be not so much realistic, but understand that particularly in this racing league, the picture can completely change, let alone one race, but just one split second?
Yeah, I mean, I think me and Jake are more focused on getting Ferrari itself far off, it's sort of out in front enough to then, try and maybe battle with each other. So sort of try and get rid of the competitors early for the championship, and then we can have it sort of back to the good old days of last season between us two. But yeah, I think I'd be stupid not to eye up the championship again this season.
That just summarises how dramatic this has been. But I think that is where we end the stream tonight. It was awesome at the end. And for Jensen, it was that winning feeling. After all the agony, it's washed away, at least in this moment. He heads the championship, and we will see if he can hold it this time next week. Make sure you return for when we return here at ETSR for what I believe will be the Japanese Grand Prix, Jensen.
Uh, yes, that's correct. And then we've got a season break as well after that.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Congratulations, Jensen and Andy. I say congratulations, but also commiserations to Tech. Obviously, he started from pole, but couldn't quite bring it home for the win. But it just shows you how competitive ETSR is turning out to be. Make sure you return for when we return here at ETSR. And until next time.